Islamic finance is then, in fact, the finance of all of us. I always argue Islamic finance is not Islamic. It is not Islamic at all, as a matter of fact, because it's the same finance that all of us, regardless of our religion, and even before probably religions came into organized forms or any other form, before we knew about religions, humanity has been practicing what? Islamic finance. So what is Islamic finance? People finance through trade by giving assets and taking their prices later, taking the counterpart later, that is financing. People used to finance, and they do finance through leasing by giving you an asset that produces a flow of usufruct, a flow of benefit, and then keep that asset, and you pay only for the price of that usufruct. And also financing through creating projects and doing together our work through sharing principle. So what is Islamic finance? It is the finance of everybody that we always do, that we've been used to doing it, really nothing else. It is financing through sale, through leasing, and through sharing. So this is Islamic finance. Somebody may be sensitive to the word Islamic. Well, it's okay. Be sensitive to the word Islamic. It so happened that in our contemporary world, the coming back to the nature of transactions, coming back to the nature of finance has started by Muslims who felt that the existing interest-based financing, the existing not morally committed financing is in contradiction with their religion, and they started it as an Islamic finance. So you want to take it that way. It is Islamic simply because it started by Muslims, and it is Islamic also because for Muslims it is an essential part of their religion. You want to take it as general? Yes, it is, as a matter of fact, general. The reality of it is that today, in our today's world, the users of Islamic finance, many of them are non-Muslim. There are also many who are Muslims. The providers of Islamic finance, at least at the managerial and middle management level, are very often not Muslim. But it only follows these principles that are themselves human principles, although they are Islamic. I remember at one time I received a letter from a gentleman in Delaware saying that he was a priest in a group of churches, some United churches for the Southern United Church, but it was located in Delaware. He said, we want to establish an Islamic bank in the letter. And then he went on telling me, don't be surprised, we really do not want Islamic bank because we are Christian. We want a Christian bank. But the only example that exists in the world today of a Christian bank, he said, is the Islamic bank. And that's why I am asking and I'm writing to you. So it is as much Islamic, as a matter of fact, as it is Christian. And I would go on and say as much as it is also Jewish or Hindu or Buddhist or anything, or even atheist, because it's simply a humanitarian thing based on the human essential transactions, essential way of doing things in the market. So let's look at it. What do we exclude then? We exclude financing through lending. In the previous slides, you noticed it's sale, leasing, or sharing. What is not there is loan. We do not finance on loan basis because a loan creates a debt and the debt does not create increment, simply because the debt does not have an intrinsic utility that you can derive from it. It's not like a cow that can give a baby cow. Debt rescheduling, the same thing. Does not create value added, then we take it out. The third thing is the fake contracts or the immoral financing, both. We are also excluded. So what do we exclude then? We don't accept in Islamic finance to trade contract for the difference or to trade indices. Yet if you create, for instance, a fund that invests in reality, owns shares and stocks that come in an index and replicate an index in this way, then you can trade the unit of that fund. Why? Because they represent reality. Although you are coping with an index in that fund, but that is a reality. The index is only a mere calculation that cannot be traded. Though it is useful, that's a different issue. It's an indicator. So if I go to the next one, why do we reject interest? Because it does not create value added. These other words, gharar and maysir. Gharar is ambiguity in contract. We don't accept it. A contract that does not define the relationships between the finance provider and the finance user is not really a helpful contract. That is the gharar issue. And the maysir is gambling. I mentioned these words because I wanted to produce them. They have become in the industry now, I should say in the finance industry, not only in the Islamic finance, because there is a lot of mixing, a lot of provision of Islamic finance by conventional financial institutions, and including the IMF and the World Bank. So these words have become part of the glossary of the World Bank and the IMF, so we need to kind of familiarize ourselves with them. What are the basic characteristics of Islamic finance contracts? You can earn if you own an asset only. Well, that is an asset, then that's not enough to be an asset. It must be an asset that produces value added. It's value creating asset. That's the second point. And then we go to Islamic finance is based on free contracting, free negotiation, and of course adherence to the human right. I like to make a little point on the entitlement right. We all know that private ownership or ownership creates entitlement right. That's an implication of ownership. If you own an asset, you are entitled to the product that comes from that asset, to any increment that is created in it. And I like to take a simple example that can be understood by anyone, regardless of the sophistication of that person. Take an example when someone gives another person a loan. Who would be the owner of the money that is in the pocket of the loan recipient now? Of course, the owner is the borrower, not the lender. The lender, in fact, by giving a loan, has accepted to transfer its ownership from being cash on hand to being an abstract asset. We call it debt on the other person. The abstract asset, by its nature, does not create value, so you don't deserve value. And if you attempt to take value, where would you take it from? From assuming that you are going to get benefit in using the loan I gave it to you, you will create value. But that assumption is incorrect. Sometimes it does not. That's one. And two, let's suppose I use or the borrower uses the loan that was given to him or her, buying some assets and selling these goods that are bought for a higher sum of cash. So you really made a profit. But who owns the money that was borrowed? The borrower. And then who is entitled to that increment? Can we claim that by any rational approach, by any rational analysis, that the lender has a right on that increment? If we claim such a thing, then we are violating the entitlement principle, which is the immediate implication, the sine qua non of the right of ownership. So in respect of the right of ownership, we have to also abide by the entitlement right that does not give any entitlement to the lender on the increment that happens in the borrowed money. Of course, the last point in Islamic finance, although it is never the least, it's probably one of the most important things, is that it commits itself to the ethical values that are common to all of us. Would the humanity and the human race be better off without cigarettes, without weapons, especially weapons of mass destruction, without porno industry, and without alcohol? All humanity will be better without them. And Islamic finance is withheld against these because it abides by the moral values that we all believe in, that belong to all of us.